Well, thank you, everybody. Welcome home. Great weather here. Welcome home. How you doing, Tynes? Good to see you. Good to see you. Barry, thank you for that kind introduction. Thanks as well for your many years of service in the Army and to the nation. Your early reputation as a warfighter coming out of Vietnam has a lot to do with why Rick Shinseki stayed in uniform. Jan Scruggs, thanks to you and to the members of your board for the leadership and determination that resulted in this beautiful memorial. Thanks to all of you, we stand on hallowed ground today. Korean Defense Attaché Major General Lee, the friendship and alliance of our nations remain as important today as it ever was in times past when we fought side by side, first in Korea and then in Vietnam. Kachi kapshida. Kachi kapshida. To our friends from Australia as well, thank you for being part of this ceremony and the effort to put an education center here. General Talele, old friend, great soldier, a great leader. The distinguished war correspondent, Joe Galloway, and his wife, Grace. About 3 weeks ago, Command Sergeant Major Basil Plumley, 17 Cav, was laid to rest at Fort Benning, Georgia. Vietnam was Basil Plumley's third war. 4 combat jumps, parachute assaults in World War II, 1 more in Korea, all before going into the Ia Drang Valley with Hal Moore and Gary Owen. Joe delivered Sergeant Major Plumley's eulogy with all the eloquence and emotion one combat veteran reserves for another. Joe and Grace, good to see you again today. Deputy Secretary Scott Gould from the VA is here. Undersecretary Allison Hickey, who spoke here earlier, saying her tributes to the women who served in Vietnam, served with all of us. Some very special guests, Gold Star mothers, Mary Byers, Gold Star wives, Deborah Krause, sons and daughters in touch, Tony Cordero. All of our other veteran service organizations who help us serve veterans better, and most importantly, fellow veterans from Vietnam. To all of you and your families, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, finally got through that list. Now look, I'm greatly honored to be here today, both as a Vietnam veteran and as an American who finds personal solace and comfort in this memorial whenever I'm able to visit. It speaks of our generation's honor and sacrifice in war, roughly 50 years ago. I first visited this memorial on a summer evening in 1985, nearly 3 years after the unveiling. I had planned on attending the dedication ceremony in November of that year, 1982, with friends from the Pentagon where we were all assigned. But as sometimes happens in the military, I received a short notice reassignment set of orders that took me overseas. Others who did attend that ceremony described for me an event that moved them to tears. And so right away, those reports planted seeds for me of my own visit here whenever I got back to Washington. And so, returning to Washington nearly 3 years later, I came here on a summer evening in 1985. There were no walkway lights here then, as I recall, at least I don't think there were. But in the gathering dusk from whatever approach I could have taken, this black wall seemed to emerge out of a cut in the ground. And with the precision of its angles, cast even greater solemnity and power on the surrounding area. A mix of emotions about loss, about pain, of innocence ceded, and young lives too soon relinquished. I was moved. All of us who fought in Vietnam came home changed, older than our years, tougher, more serious, no less vital, but somehow less lighthearted. At a distance, the wall is sternly black. As you get closer, it begins to take on texture as the etchings become visible. From about 6 to 10 feet, the inscriptions are legible. At least they used to be when my eyes were younger. But that day at last light, I found and touched the names of fellow soldiers. Hilario Liano, Gary Kawamura, fallen high school friends. Gary Kadetz, one of the first of my 25 West Point classmates to fall in battle. Medal of Honor recipient Joe Grant, First Sergeant Yoshiwa Nagato, both of whom were Golden Dragons with me in the 25th Infantry Division. And as I touched their names, I could feel the power of the wall connecting. And this is not just speech making. I could feel the power of the wall. Each touch, a name I knew, each touch brought a face and a flood of memories from times past. Release one name, touch the next, another connection, another flood of memories. Not the wall, but the names on it evoked this power of connection. The wall was merely the medium, and it remains so today. Not for every name on there, but the names I know, when I touch, I see a face. Others may attest that in touching names you know, you reach back in time and connect with those who remain as young and as vibrant as when you last saw them. And in that instant, this granite memorial and the visitor are one. No other monument I know of attains this level of intimacy. I don't know whether Maya Lin, the architect who designed this memorial, ever intended to create a time capsule of the heart, but that, for me, is what this wall has become for those of us who grew up in Vietnam. Here, 58,282 fallen Americans remain forever brave, forever young, forever vibrant. Whenever their names are caressed by the fingers of loving spouses or parents, children who grew into adulthood without a parent, mourning friends, hands reaching out in remembrance, in sadness, in reverence, the wall does have the power to uplift and offer a measure of healing. 50 years. Historians tell us that is officially how much time has passed since Americans first strode into battle in Vietnam. From LZ X-ray in the Ia Drang to Nui Ba Din, the Iron Triangle, Tui Wa, Parrot's Beak, the Rock Pile, Bami Tut, Khe San, Con Tien, Dak To, Play Me, Hamburger Hill, and the thousands of other fighting places between the Delta and the DMZ, in and out of Vietnam, where boys became men in the time it took to chamber that first round. The surprise of Tet 68, unspeakable horrors of the Hanoi Hilton, and the plight of POWs still missing. Memories flood as though it were yesterday. Time stands still. Images remain sharp and clear. There is power here as well, in that sense of timelessness. And when generations of Americans too young to know anything about the Vietnam War come to visit, hand in hand with someone who might have experienced loss, this wall must become compassionate teacher. Its primary lesson here in stark display is the human cost of war. There is power in that lesson. The Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, in its continuing mission to honor, educate, and heal, is moving forward with plans to build an education center here at the memorial. That center will add to the sanctity of this hallowed ground and the inspiration in granite. 3 million men and women in uniform returned from Vietnam, grateful to resume their lives again. We are, in some cases, just now beginning to care for them the way we should have decades ago. We pledge that this work will continue. In caring for them, we honor the 58,282 names who are memorialized here. Today, 50 years later, young Americans again shoulder the burdens of a long war, pitting freedom, liberty, and justice against hatred, fear, and oppression. In Iraq and Afghanistan, American men and women have demonstrated America's commitment to its founding principles. We are grateful for their service, their sacrifice, and their commitment. They and their families remind me of another time when young Americans shouldered the burdens of a long war. Let us vow to better care for this generation. We need your generation, our generation, to help point the way. Thank you for your service. Help us get this right. Welcome home. God bless the memories of those whose names are inscribed on this wall and their families. God bless those who serve and have served our nation in uniform, and may God continue to bless this great, great nation of ours. Thank you all very much.